it's running in a deficit for several reasons. One is because they weren't worried about what they were doing with Social Security in terms of where the funding went. But we also have now, instead of having 4 people pay into 1 person with Social Security, the triangle's backwards. We've got 1 person paying into 4 Social Security. So those things that I talked to you about, adjusting the bend points, decreasing the cost of living, those things would actually put more money when we put it going into the right direction. So what we're trying to do is tip the scale so that it's sustainable now, and then we start to digress. We're not so far out there. It's not like healthcare where there's no way, I mean, where you can't even see a way of paying it back. We can tip the scale now to do that, but what's happening is that there's a scare tactic that's not allowing people to jump on board with tipping the scale. So it's not a loss, what I'm trying to tell you, it's not a lost cause. There's still a way to kind of tip it so that we're able to make it so that it's not running in a deficit at that point.
I guess a concern I have now too is, as I understand, part of Social Security was taken to be specifically given back to Social Security. Put it in a pool of its own and then give it back. But
you mean the trust fund that's out there? The one that we're all waiting to see, the mysterious box that we're waiting to open and see all the cash flow.
Yeah.
The government hasn't did it. It was not. It goes into the general fund. It does not go into a Social Security fund. It goes into the general fund.
It's gone.
To be used at their will and pleasure.
Well,
so there is no Social Security.
It's a pyramid.
It's not even that. It's not even that. There's a hole. There's a big hole. We've got credit cards that are due that we need to pay, and there's nothing in there. There's nothing. There's not even a way of figuring out how to pay.
Long term, there wouldn't be a separate sales income, whatever type tax, and Social Security tax.
No, long term, what I'd like to see is for people to be. We cannot. I don't know about you, but I cannot trust government to go in and say I'm going to give you my money and it's going to be there when I retire. First of all, I don't think that we should be forced to do that, right? I think we should have to be able to make our own choices. Remember, I'm trying to get Washington smaller and people bigger.
Right. And I guess what I'm really getting at, maybe it's not coming across that way, is I want it to be simple trust. I don't want 2 taxes. I want 1.
So what I'm saying is that we have to get it to the point where we eliminate federal government from managing it.
But are we saying then that we would repeal the Social Security Act and throw the people that they were supposed to protect under the bus?
No. Again, remember, this is the tactic again. I'm saying that I told you the process that we go through so that it does not affect anybody that's on it today. It will not affect anybody that's on it today.
People in the future, you're always going to have people who are less able to sustain themselves. And so how do you take care of those people that are in the poverty area?
So, okay, so are you talking about now poverty? Are you talking about poverty, or what are you talking about?
Well, the Social Security Act was originally passed to take care of the senior people who come to retirement age and did not have adequate income to sustain themselves.
Actually, it was there if you passed the age of your life expectancy. It used to be called Social Security insurance. So if you pass the age of your life expectancy, that's when Social Security kicked in at that point. Social Security was never meant to be to go into disability. It was never meant to do all of those things. It was meant to.
But nevertheless, you still got the problem. Society has the problem.
Right.
And so the question is do we throw those people out, or do we have some kind of system to take care of it? And to me, in my opinion, the Social Security, first of all, is a trust fund. The problem is that Congress has continually borrowed from the trust fund and treated it as part of the general fund. But the Social Security was intended to be a separate system to take care of the needs of the senior people when they retire. And so when we talk about a flat tax, when we talk about
eventually getting to a flat tax?
Yeah, like, to me, if you're trying to include Social Security into this concept of flat tax, you're talking about you're putting apples and oranges into the same bucket.
This is what we're trying to say. You have to understand. No, what you just said is not correct. I was trying to say that there's a process. Right now, there are steps that we have to take to make Social Security so that it's sustainable today and get it out of the hole. So I mentioned those 5 things that we've got to do to Social Security now. It's not reinventing the wheel. People have actually come out with these, and the left has used a scare tactic to make it seem like they're going to throw people out, throw people out on the street. That's not what's going to happen. He asked me about a flat tax and how that addresses with Social Security. That flat tax, I said, you cannot go to that flat tax right now because there's no way that you're going to be able to sustain the flat tax without the tax burden being so heavy. So we've got to, for what we're doing right now, we've got to lower the tax rate and broaden the base. There are 47% of Americans that do not pay taxes at all.
Yeah. But what I'm hearing here is okay, we're going to go to a flat tax. We're going to
We're not saying that.
have people, take care of themselves for retirement. People, most people do not automatically save unless they're forced to save.
Okay,
And so the question I have is that how do you deal with the
People won't save.
That's not government
It's not,
responsibility. We have to give the government.
that's the problem, is that we're trying to do everything for everyone, and it's not sustainable. If I have to be responsible to make sure that I put money in retirement so I can take care of myself and even family members, it's my responsibility to make sure that we take care of our family members. That's how things used to be done. We used to be able to go to a doctor's office, see what the list of the prices are, and be able to pay a doctor to do that. Now, people are saying, hey, it's government's job to take from one and give to another. We've got to let people achieve the American dream. We've got to let people work hard and work for what they will need in their lives.
Well, that's a good principle. That's true. That we had that system back in 1932, 1931 when I was born, and I saw the effects of the Great Depression, and I saw that the Social Security Act was passed to solve the problem because individuals had not saved, they did not have retirement, they did not have a means to sustain themselves. And so unless you have some system for creating a savings account, I'm all for 401k accounts, okay? But you've got to have a way of getting people to pay into something like that, or if you leave it up to individuals to decide by themselves that they're going to save, they'll do like the son-in-law of mine right now.
I respectfully disagree with that. I do.
Okay.
I do. I respectfully disagree. You have to understand, I have faith in this country that you probably don't have. I have faith because I know that when there's another country in trouble, the United States gives more money voluntarily than in any other country. When we are here in our communities, we take care of each other in our communities. The problem with Social Security is because government we did give them that trust. We did give them those things and say, hey, we're going to let you do that. And they've taken that money and it's gone. Government has put our children in $16 trillion hole that we have no way of getting out of. We have got to get our fiscal house in order. Let me tell you the 2 different approaches, okay? This is really important. When you're talking about healthcare and some of these other things, everybody's trying to get to the same goal, except you've got one here saying, we want to worry about making sure everybody has access, and then we're going to worry about the cost. And the other side says, we're going to worry about the cost, and then we're going to make sure everybody has access to it. The problem with worrying about get everybody having access, we get to this point where it's unsustainable. I don't know if you understand how bad it is, but $16 trillion is where we are now, let alone what we actually owe in the future. It's a big mess. Somebody has to pay for it. And our policies, they incentivize and reward bad behavior and punish good behavior. Our policies make it so that it's easier. Right now, there are people that are abusing the system, and that's not okay. We've got to make sure that we're not doing that. We're reversing that policy.
Considering the level of our national debt, do you really think it's a good time to initiate tax cuts?
Yes. Let me tell you why. And it's not really, you're actually broadening the base when we do that. When we lower the taxes and broaden the base, let me tell you why. Washington, first and foremost, has a spending problem. It's not a revenue problem. It's a spending problem. So we do have to go in and start cutting a lot of these things that we're doing. got to go in and start facing reality and saying we can't sustain these things.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying, we gotta get cuts in place first. I mean, expenditure cuts in place first.
Well, when I'm talking about that, again, it's not, in terms of what Washington makes right now, lowering the tax rate on the base. When we lower the tax rate, we're lowering the rates off of those people that are actually producing. In other words, it's like economics, right? You've got this bottle of water. This is what I try to make sure I use when I try to get the message out to the people.